Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny, and in this episode, episode 5, we'll be talking about the top 7 house rules that you should have for every guest in your Airbnb. If you're coming across my channel for the first time, I definitely recommend going down in the description and checking out all 15 episodes that I've uploaded. You'll find a wealth of information about how to be a successful Airbnb host, so I definitely recommend checking that out. And as well, I use my own Airbnb, and I'm here right now, as a case study. So I walk you through, I kind of show you how I've done things with my own rental. And as far as I know, no one else has really done that. So I think you'll find a lot of value in that. So please subscribe, like, and if you have any questions, feel free to add those in the comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So why should you even care about house rules? Well, house rules are extremely important, and Airbnb allows you as a host to pick what rules you find acceptable for someone to stay in your place. So for example, if you don't want people smoking in your rental, you're allowed to state that. If you don't want them to bring pets or have parties, these are all things that you're allowed to state to protect, your property. And people who try to book your place have to agree to those. So these are really key safety measures that you as a host should take advantage of. So I'm going to give you the top 7 that I think are very important based off of my past 2 years doing this. So I recommend that you listen to all 7 and that you incorporate those into your own rental. So rule number 1, don't allow anyone to smoke in your rental. Even if you're a smoker yourself, I definitely don't recommend it. There's a reason why most hotel rooms are non-smoking. People just don't like the smell. And even if you allowed it for one person, the next guest who comes in who can smell that smoke may have a terrible time with it. So in order to prevent yourself from getting a bad review, I definitely don't recommend you allow anyone to smoke in your rental. Rule number 2, don't allow parties of any kind in your rental. Now, unless you have a place that is designed for hosting events and your place is set up perfectly for that, that's one thing. But if you just have an apartment or a house or a condo, I definitely don't recommend parties. One, because the chances of your place getting destroyed are extremely likely. And 2, the repercussions of upsetting neighbors within your vicinity is pretty high. You don't want the cops getting called, and if there's certain rules in your neighborhood about noise ordinances, you don't want to get fined or penalized for that. So I definitely don't recommend allowing parties of any kind in your rental. Rule number 3. Now, this rule is asking all guests to remove shoes before entering your home. Now, not everyone does that. It's not necessarily a common thing. Some cultures do that. But specifically in my rental, I have really nice wood floors. And the last thing I want is someone to trek a lot of dirt, sand, or rocks and pebbles under their shoe and scratching up the floors. So I personally ask that guests not wear shoes inside the home. In the foyer, the minute they come in, there's an area where they can take off their shoes and leave them there. But I prefer that they don't walk around in the house with them. Now, does everyone follow that rule? I don't know. I have no way of telling unless I see significant damage, in the walkway. But that's not likely to happen over a short amount of time. But if you have carpet, this is another way to prevent your carpet from getting worn out and getting dirtier faster. So, for my own purpose, I just don't allow that, and I ask my guests not to wear shoes in. So you can decide not to do that or not, but in my case, I thought for my own property, it's something that I wanted to list and ask guests not to do. Rule number 4, clearly state quiet hours. For my rental here, the quiet hours are between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. You could choose to alter those hours. Maybe you want to do 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. That's your choice. But those are the hours I picked. And the reason for that is, I want the guests to clearly know the times that are acceptable to make noise. For example, I have a rooftop deck here, and I don't want people past 10 p.m. up there, on a weeknight, having drinks, chatting, and being loud and disturbing the neighbors around you. And that's really what the quiet areas are for, is to prevent any issues with your neighbors. And as you're probably well aware, Airbnb gets a lot of flack for people coming to visit and being on vacation and just generally being loud and having a good time. But people that live beside you, aren't going on vacation, and they got to go to work in the morning. So, quiet hours are specifically in place to prevent your guests from being too loud and disturbing your neighbors. Rule number 5: clearly state and ask that your guests lock all doors before they leave the home. It was a surprise to me how often I would be told by neighbors who walk by that the front door is left open and they haven't seen anyone in the house in a long time. I've set up security cameras right outside the front door, and that's something I let guests know for the protection of themselves and the property. There's many times where they just don't lock the front door. I had one case where a female guest had left the home, forgot to close the door, had come back and saw the door open, and then freaked out thinking that somebody was in the home, called me, wanting to know what's going on. And then, so I had to go back to the security tapes and see that she actually just forgot to lock the door on the way out. I shared that video with her, and, then she felt grateful and she wasn't scared anymore. But, you'd be surprised at how many people just decide to walk out. And in further episodes, I talk about some ideas on, how to prevent this type of thing from happening with smart locks. So I'll get into that a little bit later. But for your own case, for your own knowledge, I definitely suggest that you reiterate to your guests about locking doors on their way out. Rule number 6: require guests to inform you immediately if something breaks, spills, or stains in the home. It was pretty common before I implemented this rule to just walk into the house after someone has checked out and notice that there's broken glass, or they've spilled something on the carpet or on the couch, and they just didn't tell me. Where if they would have told me early on, maybe we could have, for a stain on the carpet, cleaned it up a little faster, so that it didn't stain. In any case, I think it's important to let them know that you as a host are willing to understand that things break, but they need to be open about when things break to you. The last thing I want to do is come back after they leave and notice that something breaks and then have to charge them a deposit for it. But if they're willing to tell me in advance, that they broke a glass, or they broke a piece of equipment, depending on how I'm feeling, sometimes I'll just let it slide because they were being honest with me up front. So that's the rule that I recommend you list in your Airbnb rentals, because I think when you do that, they're more inclined to be upfront with you when something breaks or is damaged in the home. Rule number 7. Now, this is the final and I think one of the most important rules that I've talked about today. Don't allow third-party bookings. So what is a third-party booking? Well, what that means is someone booking your rental, your Airbnb rental, for someone else. Someone that has no intention of staying there, but is booking it on behalf of someone else. Why? Maybe that person has had bad reviews in the past, so they're trying to bypass that system, or maybe they don't use the internet, or whatever reason that may be. But I definitely make sure to be clear about not allowing anyone who's not staying in the home to be booking the rental. This is to protect myself and to protect them. So, if something breaks or there's an issue with, the police, loud noise, whatever it may be, you want to be clear that the person who has booked the place is also staying there. Because then you get in a whole bunch of issues about who's responsible, and that's just something that I want to avoid as a host, and that's something that you definitely want to avoid too. So clearly state that anyone booking the place must also be staying there. They just can't book it and then have their cousins or their friends come stay without them ever showing up or being involved. It's in your best interest to do that. So those are my top 7 house rules that I think every host should implement when it comes to Airbnb. I hope you found those valuable. And if you have any questions, please feel free to list those in the comment, and then I'll answer those questions as they come through. And until then, please check out the other episodes in this channel, and I hope you enjoy it because I think there's a lot of value there.